Hi, let's talk about the different kinds of regulations that could apply to your project, specifically building permits, building codes, and zoning. Wherever your project is located, it'll be subject to a local government. This could be a city or a county, depending on where it's located. Um, Local governments adopt codes in order to make sure that all their buildings in their jurisdiction meet some minimum requirements. Building permits are the way that these um, jurisdictions, that these governments enforce the building codes. So what is a permit for? It's so that the local jurisdiction can enforce building codes. But you're likely to have a client who says, why do I need a permit? I can just, build my project. They'll never know, no big deal. Well, building permits enforce construction standards and therefore ensure safety. It's illegal to avoid a building permit. A building permit can keep your contractor honest and or guide a do-it-yourself project. This is an important one. A building permit will keep your insurance valid, and it's valuable when you sell your property. That's why you need a building permit. When do you need a building permit? Well, the answer is almost always. So here are some projects that absolutely need a permit. New construction, additions, change of use. For example, changing a garage into a living space, that'll require a permit. Demolition, sometimes people don't catch this one, but demolition requires a permit. Anytime your project adds or remove walls, it needs a permit. And this will catch people. Sometimes replacing windows and or roofing requires a permit. Now, every jurisdiction is different, and so you'll need to check the rules for the specific city or county that your project is in. So these ones are sometimes yes, sometimes no. Check if you need a permit before building a deck or a fence, a small building like a shed, and sometimes siding on your home or building. These things usually do not require a permit. Simple repairs of things that were already there, and strictly finish work such as painting, replacing carpets, etc. Also, these projects usually require a permit. Plumbing, electrical, mechanical work, septic, air conditioning, irrigation, solar power. If you're installing any of those things, you're most likely going to need a permit. So the answer is generally you need a permit for most work. So permits are to enforce the building codes. What are the building codes? Building codes regulate the design, construction, alteration, and repair of buildings. They are adopted and enforced by local government agencies. And the overall purpose of building codes is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the general public. Okay? Building codes are not designed to prevent property loss. Sometimes people think, oh, it's so that my house won't burn down. No, the building codes are to protect the people inside the house, such that if there is a fire, they are able to exit safely. So once again, the purpose of building codes is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the general public. Where do building codes come from? Most of them start here in the IBC, or International Building Code. The IBC is a model code. It is not the legal code in any jurisdiction. What happens is your local jurisdiction takes the IBC and adopts it, either as a whole or more often with some small changes, which are called amendments, whatever makes it work for the specific location. The IBC is published every 3 years. There's a cycle. and 2018 is the current version. So in the US, you have state building codes. In Pennsylvania, you'll have the Pennsylvania State Building Code. Here in California, where I'm located, is the California Building Code. And what happens is the state takes a look at the IBC, makes any changes that they feel are necessary, and adopts it on their time cycle to be the legal code in that state. But your project is also responsible for upholding municipal code. A municipal code is the code of laws for a local government. If your project is in a city, city boundaries, it'll be the city municipal code. If it's outside of city boundaries in the US, it's usually governed by the county municipal code. This is where you're going to find your zoning regulations. Well, what's zoning? Zoning is defined as the way your local government is going to control the physical development of land and the kinds of uses to which each individual property is put. So here on the screen you've got an example. This is a zoning map. It is the zoning map for Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And if you'll take a look at the legend, you see a number of different types of allowed uses, and then they are specifically tagged to individual plots of land within the city. What exactly does zoning control? It will control the types of activity that are allowed on that land, whether it's residential use, commercial use, manufacturing use, something else. And zoning also controls the location of the building on the property and the size or bulk of that building that is allowed. If you've heard of setbacks, for example, maybe a front yard setback in a residential area, the zoning code is where you're going to find those regulations. Usually there's also a height restriction. These types of restrictions are found in the zoning code. So as you delve deeper into your career and start to take on a number of projects, you'll find that these permits, codes, and zoning restrictions really have a strong effect on what you can and cannot do on a property. So you're going to learn more and more about how to research and apply these regulations. Thanks.